everybody. It's Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Lisa Bataska with Canine Defined.
How are you? Today, we're going to be talking about prepping for the holidays or getting your dogs ready for the holidays, whether you're traveling or whether you're staying home. We're going to focus a little bit more on home because I think we've done quite a few lives on traveling traveling with your pet. So all the rules kind of apply as well. But at home, I think things get a little bit chaotic at times for the holidays, for the humans, and for the dogs. So we really want to make sure that just to kind of give you some refreshers or answer any questions that you might have about what's happening. When people come over, or if you're having a party, or if you're going to a party, or whatever, or taking your dog with you to the family gatherings, all those things. So we're going to kind of chat about those topics, and then again, like I said, answer anything that you have. Hi, Ronnie. How are you? I hope all is well out there in Iowa. Anyway, so let us know you're there because we'd like to. And if you have any questions about what to, we're gonna address all holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween, because they're all a lot of the information is relevant for all of them, not only one or the other. The only difference is the Halloween with the people coming to the door uh, setup. So, and I'll give you a little secret what I did with my Halloween door thing. I unplugged my doorbell.
Mm-hmm.
But I am in the process of putting a new one in. So that's going to be interesting. That's gonna. Hey, Pam. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in such a long time. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to handle trick or treaters, and some of the things I've done in the past. Lights out for Halloween. Amen, Tim. I'm with you. And I'm not home anyway. This Halloween anyway. I'm working, so it is truly, unfortunately, lights out for the kids. And then you don't get them. Yeah, you live out in the middle of nowhere, kind of. So that helps. We and I'll be honest, the neighborhood I live in Chicago is a lot of older people and older kids, so we don't put a lot of little ones there. It's not. I don't feel so bad, but we're not home usually on Halloween. There you go. Anyway, anyway, so let's address Halloween, trick or treaters. So, a couple of things when I used to have, when I was first newly married, I thought that was so cute. And so I would actually, with one of my dogs, I would sit out front with the dogs that like children and like the people, and was going to be okay with the costumes. That's really important, you guys. Like, so the dog's okay with it, with whatever is out there. And if you don't know, then don't set it up. You don't want to find out the day of. Um, I would sit outside, or sit out there with and maybe I would have a costume, maybe I wouldn't, and give out the candy for the time being, and do it that way. So that way there is no doorbell ringing, and it's the dogs that were not happy about it would be able to stay in the house and not have to deal with the doorbell ringing 20 times. So that's one way to do it. I've heard of people that leave the candy out, which I don't know if
Depends where you live, right? I guess.
I don't know if that's a good idea. It depends where you live. If you live in small town America, that's probably okay. But in a big city, I don't know if that would work. But that's an option too, I guess. Anything else, Lisa? Did you do anything different? Um,
When I lived in Chicago, yeah, we had trick or treaters, but it was when the kids were young and stuff. But we just manned the door. Bruce stood at the door. I manned the dogs. He manned the door. So it was
a team
no
effort.
intersections, right?
Yeah.
And then where I'm at now, we're like pretty far set back from the road, so there's not a lot going on. So we don't get trick or treaters. So I
Yeah.
like it. I like it that way.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if you think about it, your double ringing all night long can be pretty stressful for your dog. And then just that constant, that would be really, really difficult for most dogs. So even if they love the kids and they love the people and all that, after a while that would just get difficult. So you really want to make sure that you're really taking that into account when if you're expecting trick or treaters or whatever, kind of um, have a plan in place to be able to help your dog kind of get through that piece of Halloween, because that I think can be the most stressful. Also, decorations and stuff and costumes can be scary for some dogs as well. So you want to be really mindful of that. And if you're going to have them out there with you, make sure um, that you give them a break every once in a while. They come in the house and relax and regroup before taking them back out there. So that's really important too, right? Um,
I think too, like for those dogs, one of the considerations, right? The dogs are already hyped up at the doorbell, especially if you allow them to be out, right? So a whole night of it is just constant, like your sympathetic, parasympathetic, you're just jumping, 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 especially like, I mean, nowadays when I get a visitor, I'm like, who the heck is coming to my house? So it's different. But, if you're expecting people, that's another story. So, but I think the other thing I would recommend is if you do have dogs that are sensitive to the doorbell, if you have a way to either sit out front and and you're passing out candy, I would see if you can either circumvent the doorbell where you meet them beforehand or turn it off.
yeah,
Just because it's a lot, I think, for dogs. We don't consider it.
yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I when I had a knee replacement surgery many years ago, and I had little dogs at the time, and they were in bed with me. It was not a good thing when the doorbell rang with the physical therapist coming over and they're jumping all over. I'm like, yeah. So we unplugged the doorbell so that that wouldn't
Mhm.
happen, and we just never plugged it back in. that's that's kind of how that works. Um,
Right. Funny. True.
So yeah, it was just that was a self-preservation thing, and then it was kind of nice not having the doorbell and the dogs go ballistic when the doorbell rings. So we don't have that now. However, I've decided that given as we're getting older and in this day and age, we need more video cameras. So I did get a ring
Okay.
doorbell
Yeah.
to be able to see who's there and all that stuff. And then and the good thing is you can set a different tone. It doesn't have to be like a regular. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So Deb, she takes the batteries out of the doorbell and put them up the gate. Away from the gate. Yeah, yeah, and that's a really great one too, right? Keeping a gate where they don't have to come to the door if there's a lot of kids or whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah, just be smart about it, guys. Don't because that's I think the most concerning with door opening and closing, the dogs getting out, and getting hurt and stuff like that. So just as long as you have a plan prior to that day, depending on how you celebrate it, it's really, really important because like I have cats as well. So I always worry about them getting out because my cats are indoor cats. They would never survive in the wild. So we want to make sure everybody stays happy and healthy on that. All right. So for the other holidays, Thanksgiving or any kind of decorations. So we're on the topic of decorations. So holiday decorations, you want to really think about when you're putting them up, right? Make sure you use pet-friendly decorations, or have them blocked off. It's really important that for Halloween that you keep your dogs away from like anything that can actually cause them some and I'm very sensitive to that. I have a very young dog. He's 13 months old. And he eats stuff that he finds interesting. So I am very mindful about what I have and what my decorations may be, there might be a little less, um, not a lot of strings, not a lot of shiny, not a lot of, because I have cats too. So I have a double whammy on that. So my decorations are kind of a little bit bland, if you will, for Halloween. Even though I'm going to be honest, I know some people really love Halloween, enjoy decorating and all that. I don't. I'm not a. I'm more of a Christmas girl. Halloween's a little scary. Don't like scary movies. Don't like it. So I'm not a big fan. Anyway. Anything else, Lisa, you could add to the decorations? Because that's something to consider. Like some people really get into the decorating, and it can
Hmm.
become an issue with the dogs. So,
Yeah. No, I mean, other than once you can recycle your pumpkins, right, for the wildlife and stuff. So,
oh
other
yeah,
than that, I mean,
oh yeah, that's a good idea. I keep forgetting about that. Yeah,
yeah.
and depending on what use to preserve your pumpkins too, and they can get moldy and stuff over time. So
Hmm.
that makes, yeah, I forgot about that. And then holiday plants, poinsettias, holly. I haven't had any of those in my house in years because the poinsettias, I know is really toxic for cats. I think,
Yeah.
um, I believe, yeah. So I haven't had, as much as I really love them, I don't have them in my house because um, I don't need any. And my cats are very busy and noisy, so I don't. And then mistletoe. Luckily, you can keep pretty far away from the dogs and the cats, but the plants and stuff are hard. So so something to think about too, right? And even the fake stuff, you guys, like for the you can cornucopia stuff for that Thanksgiving, you can make and all that. It's still you can definitely and the dogs can still, especially if you have young dogs, they might not find it interesting one day, and the next day they're gonna find it interesting. So it's something to consider when you have the young ones,
Hmm.
when you have young dogs, because they might not be interested initially, but that doesn't mean they won't be interested a bit later. So something to think about. Here's my favorite: guests and socializing.
Oh boy.
So Lisa and I laughed. I had a little chuckle on this one. Be familiar, people who are not familiar in the family, and tell them the rules you have in place. Raise of hands for the people whose family you tell them over and over, and they still do anything. They still whatever they do, and you can just tell them and tell them, don't do this, don't do that with the dogs. So I have, uh, what I do is I keep my dogs, you know, away. I give them something to chew or whatever while people are over because my family is terrible. They don't listen and they just do whatever. So I prefer just to not set it up and get into arguments about dogs and what to give them and all that stuff. And then there's also lots and lots of little children. So there's just so it just no, it just becomes so crazy. So but if you're gonna have people that maybe it's a smaller party or smaller situation, just let them know. Don't give them food if you don't care, and you want to be careful because that's usually what gets them in. That's what
Hmm.
I can't tell you. I bet you vets out there that say that that they probably their cases of pancreatitis are probably uh, huge by dogs eating too much stuff that's not it's not in their diet or whatever. So.
I remember one year we had a was it ham or something like that for ham and turkey or whatever. One and Amber, you remember Amber, little
Yes.
8-pound Papillon, decided to knock over the garbage can and take the entire ham bone and resource guard it from everybody in the house. It was
Yeah, well,
kind of naughty, but no, I agree. I mean, when I have people over too, and I have two grandsons now, my dogs are put away. I don't risk it if I can't supervise just to make sure everybody has a good interaction or nothing crazy is going on, and it gets hectic, especially when you have multiples. So they go in crates, they'll chew, and then I let a couple out at a time. They can visit and stuff, and then we go back away. The next couple, what have you. Whoever enjoys it and who doesn't, they don't.
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, because I think during the holidays, especially Thanksgiving, a lot of cases of pancreatitis from, people giving the dogs turkey or too much of one thing or the other. And so it just becomes, and I know some people will make like a turkey breast for the dogs and
Hmm.
separate, which is great because then, especially if they're used to it or whatever. But, with all the seasonings that we put in and all that stuff, it's probably not healthy for them. But yeah, some people make a special Thanksgiving meal for their dog.
Hmm.
That's fine too. You know what I mean?
They've done that in the shelters and stuff. Like people will get together and stuff. And then there's a group. She's in where is she? Like St. Charles area, St. Charles, Illinois, who makes ARF or who does ARF, always real food. So it's all the natural stuff. I think we talked about it before. And she does the turkey dinners and stuff that you can, you know, do that as well if you don't want to cook necessarily for them. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a really great suggestion too. If you want them to partake in the festivities, but without the vet bills afterwards, that's a great
And pancreatitis is really difficult,
Yeah. Yes.
really difficult on the dogs, and it takes a long time recover. I didn't realize how long it took, and especially the older they are, the worse it is.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
like everything in life.
Yes, that is correct. Right. And then feeding. Yeah, again, we're talking about that. Be careful about what to give them. Like I said, the pancreatitis, and then and it could get worse. Like Tim mentioned, foreign bodies. They can get, they can eat, they can swallow, any, that's why with the decorations and stuff like that, they can swallow anything. And then the younger the dog you have, um, the easier it is for them. They could pass it 100 times and then decide, oh, that's interesting, and I want to do that. So don't don't set that up, right? Um, and the other thing is, and this is what I do for the 4th of July. I do it almost for every holiday. Is give them some exercise, mental and physical. I was talking today with some of our some of my friends that were there for a private lesson, and it's like you have to give them physical exercise, yes, but you also need to give them mental. And I think at most times during the it's more important, I think, to give them more um, mental exercise than uh, physical, because all you're doing, if they're difficult, you're just building their stamina.
Right.
They're just gonna be able to last longer.
Right.
and go for longer periods of time. So you definitely want to consider, uh, you definitely want to consider about, giving them some mental and physical exercise. Take them for a walk or take them for a hike before things get busy or hectic at your house, or before you go out, if you're going out to be with family, or if you're taking them with you, especially because some people like to go to parents or relatives and they take the dogs with. So it's really important that you give them that exercise too. And then going back to that, if you are going to take your dog with you to your family, um, hopefully if they're crate trained, or if you have a gate, be real careful, because in new environments is when a lot of bad stuff happens. And even if they've been to your parents or your sisters or wherever you're going, and they're familiar with the dog, it's still different, and it's a very novel environment no matter what. So you want to be mindful of how, what safe place they have. So in many times when you're going to travel with your dog, you're going to have to take the safe space with you, whether that be a crate or a gate where you can put across a room so that they can be comfortable there,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that can become, especially if somebody has a new boyfriend, or somebody has a new baby, or somebody has a new this or that. You sometimes don't know, so it's always better to be prepared when you go out elsewhere, or you go out and about to with your pet, if you take them with you, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's a lot of people don't even, they think, oh well, they've been to my mother's house. Yeah, they
Yep.
have, but maybe there's not that other people. It's just you know what I mean? It's like there's too many variables, so you want to make sure you have that safe space for your dogs, no matter what. All right, this is my favorite, and all dog people. It's fireworks, loud noises, music, quiet, big, a lot of music, all that stuff. Really important, and that's what I mean. A quiet and secure space where they can retreat. Oh, that's a great idea,
Yep.
Jen. Jen said that she started crating her dogs in the van, just at trials. It works great, and no barking. That's a really good idea, because that's something they're very familiar with,
Hmm.
weather permitting. But yeah, sometimes fireworks, and especially like New Year's Eve, people like to make a lot of, that's a real noisy one. It's
Yeah.
almost noisier than July 4th, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've done that too. Like if I had to go, like my in-laws when they were still alive, we would have to go to see, and then I would take my ones who were a little younger, or whatever, and stuff like that. And sometimes they'd want to see them, and sometimes, and I'm like, no, no, that's okay, because it's a lot of management, a lot of people, and I like the very energetic dogs, so they'd be knocking people over like bowling pins. So I didn't want to rehearse that. I was like, nobody needs a hip replacement here this holiday season. Thank you. But I would also do that with my dogs, crate them in my van. Um, at that time, a lot of them were used to doing that, and most of my dogs are pretty good about handling that. So, but Dad, this is a really good idea.
Yeah. Obviously, weather permitting. But yeah, it's that makes yeah. I I don't think I've I think I did that. I took one of my dogs to a family member, but it was one dog, and she was really good, and so she was able to handle it. But that's um, when I had my littles, they were not going to be great at handling that. They were not going to be. They were not going to love that, and they were not going to be happy with any of that. So
I think the other consideration too is like even if you drop something on the ground, what happens if you happen to bring a dog who has resource guarding issues, right? And then you have a whole nother concern. So there's so many applications or so many considerations when you're taking your dogs or having people over because you're not. It's a different it's a different kind of management, right? That you have to make sure that you have
yes, right.
set up for you and your dogs so that everybody stays safe.
Mm. And those of us who are the dog people in the family, it's a bigger challenge because you have other family members. It's like, oh, I know this one,
Yeah.
or how about if I bring my dog Fluffy to meet your dog, and all it just becomes, especially if everybody in the family is loves has dogs or whatever, it can become very very exciting.
Right.
Nobody wants that
No.
in the least. So yeah,
It's emotionally traumatic already when we get together, right? So let's eliminate the trauma where we
and,
can.
and let's be fair to when we get together with family, we love our families, but sometimes that can be a trigger stacking event for the humans. So,
Yes,
so
right.
you have to, so you have to be mindful of that, and then not add if that's going to, depending on how we handle being with our families, one way or the other. Sometimes,
Avoidance. I'm hiding. I got to go walk the dogs. I should have been a hermit, I think.
well, Lisa comes from a very large family, so
Ugh,
she has,
too many.
she has,
A
there's a,
lot. And
yeah.
they're loud. They're loud. And I'm like, I can't.
How
I'd
many
rather deal with barking dogs than all my brothers together. So.
How many do you? Because you're the only girl, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I have four. I have eight brothers, four older, four younger. So when we would get together, it was like we had our own little club going on because it was just nonstop action and loud. So
Yeah, that's a lot. My
it's,
family's a
it
bit
is a lot.
smaller. I only I have I have four sisters, so but they're
Oh my gosh, five girls! Yikes!
four. Yeah, no, four.
I
I
mean,
have,
with you,
yeah, four.
right?
It's me. So four. There's
All
three
four.
sisters. So yeah, and then they all have kids, but their kids are grown. So our holidays are a little quieter on my side. My husband's side of the family has lots of little children, lots and lots and lots of them.
Oh
They
boy,
make every year. There's more of them. So
you're like, watch TV, do something else.
right. It can be very exciting for sure, right? And let's see. Any questions so far? LOL avoidance. Yeah, Lisa's good at that.
Like buddies. You're
Yeah.
correct, Tim.
It's like,
So-
oh, I hear I hear a mouse over there. I gotta go see that. And the last thing is make sure you're keeping your eyes on your dog. And that's what I mean. I think Lisa made a point. Like it's so stressful anyway for the holidays and stuff, and then you're also gonna have to keep your eye on your dog. It just that's why sometimes it's better to just keep them nice and safe and sound until you come home and and be able to deal and so that you're not having to you know deal with too many problems or situations with your dog, or put them in a position where it's going to be uber stressful for them. And again, going back to if you have a young dog, they still don't know what a lot of this stuff is. They're not familiar with the events and stuff, so it might be overly, in some cases it might be much very overly stressful. So something to consider, right? And I know sometimes we struggle with, should we leave them at home or should we take them with? Sometimes leaving them at home is the better option, even if your dogs are used to traveling.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's a better option for the dog. Less exciting, less stress, less of everything. Unless you're traveling and you're not going to be home in a decent hour. So John's idea is great, putting them in a van and driving them to the event, or you know, um, or or keeping them like bunnies. Yes, uh, yeah, because it is. It's just, but sometimes it's better to keep them safe and all that. Any recommendations for beginning to work with a dog who's extremely stressed by crates or being in a gated room? Kari, I started doing this with the dog in at my facility, and I think Lisa and Lisa might have other ideas. I had a little dog because one of the things that we require at for your canine, and if you're doing dog sports especially, is the dog has to be crate trained, because for every dog sport they have to be, and given the amount of dogs and stuff, it's really important that they are. But um some dogs are very sensitive to not being wanting to be crated and stuff. So what we end up doing is we use an X pen, and for whatever reason, I have found that as long as it doesn't have a cover on the top, you can't leave them in there. But that's the beginning that you can begin to work, like put them in an X pen. You could sit by them, reinforce them, give them something to chew. That openness of the bottom and the top seems to, for whatever reason, they can handle that pretty well for the most part. I haven't had too many. If you put them in there and leave, yeah, it's going to be a problem. But the X Pen is doesn't have a top or a bottom. It's just a gate that goes around, and they seem to do so much better with that. I don't know why. I had a little poodle that, like, you put him in the crate, he just lose it. Put him in the X Pen, he was fine. He was like, okay. At first he wasn't crazy about it, but then he goes, oh, he can go up, he can look around. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't feel as confining. So I found that was really helpful for the to get started, get him started getting used to being crated or gated in a room, right? And the other thing too, Carrie, is make sure they have something to do. Chew a bone, a Kong. I'm a big Kong girl. I have any given, like right now, if you look in my freezer, I think I have 8 Kongs in there. So at any given time, if I need a minute, I can give my dogs a Kong, and they can handle that. Uh, any other suggestions, Lisa?
I think so. It sounds like this might be something that's been going on for a bit. I don't know. It says extremely stressed by crates or whatever. uh, you know, can you identify the trigger? Like what, how is, I know in some cases, if these are rescue dogs, we don't know exactly what happened, whether it was lack of training or they were just, never introduced to it. And is it truly stress? What is it? Or is it that they're just throwing a fit to get out of the crate because they're not used to being in it? So there's a variety of things, but you know, I think the important thing is you have to have a management plan in place. So if your dog cannot do that, be isolated or gated or crated or something, then you need to figure another way, some sort of management to prevent rehearsal, or so that you have time to change, right? Change the dog's mind in regards to a crate or being isolated. And the point of the whole thing is that you have to start doing that stuff now. It's not when the incident occurs, oh crap, it's Christmas, we're going to have Christmas here.
Yeah.
We need you got to start doing that now. So that's, I think, one of the biggest things. Like for me, crating is um, she gets panicked by it. Crating is a life skill, in my personal opinion. And I will always train a dog regardless for that, just because stuff happens, like life happens. If she gets panicked in it, have you tried things that you could try is opening the crate door and teaching them to go in, that they have the autonomy to go in and out of it. You can feed them with the crate door open, put the food in there, put some good stuff in there. don't stress. And sometimes if you make it a big thing, it becomes a bigger thing to the dog.
Hmm.
So it just depends on how that works. Um,
Yeah, I'm
Amy,
looking for. I think we did a
the
Facebook Live on crate training, and I'm trying to find when it was because you can go to any one of our Facebook pages
lives.
and look it up. And I think we did a whole Facebook Live on crate training. Oh yeah, here we did it a year ago. We did it a year ago. Crate training. Hold on, let me see if I can pull up the information. So I'm gonna apologize in a minute. Here we go.
And Carrie, the other thing I would say is that if she gets panicked in it, then you need to really think about, is this, how important is this? And if she's panicking, even just being gated off, I guess I would want to maybe see if there's some sort of help, homeopathic or otherwise, to try and get her to relax a bit. Because if she's panicked, you're not going to make any progress on learning, right? Because the brain is in fight or flight mode. It's not in a thinking way.
Yeah. So Carrie, we did a crate training. Why do it on September 4th, 2022. So you can go onto either one of our Facebook pages and look it up and watch. We did a whole thing, and there's video and all that um,
So
that we did that kind of goes over, training it and working on it and all that stuff. So
Amy Barth just came up with a good one. I've taken a wire crate, flattened both ends in, and covered the bottom with a blanket. Used a bungee cord to hold the body to a sturdy table and made the crate more of a tunnel. Working with the dog going through it, it's a start. So there's various ways. I think a lot of times, we have to think outside of the box when we're dealing with dogs, right? And every dog is different. We don't know their history, so there's so many ways to handle stuff. It's just a matter of what works for the dog and how creative can you get. Sometimes if you're into a quick fix, it will affect your relationship if you insist on it. So there are different ways that you have to be creative with. In the shelter, what they'll do is they have the clamshell type, the airline crates. And so if a dog is concerned, or sometimes they also offer having those for dogs that are worried so they have a place to hide. And so sometimes you can take the top off, right? The clamshell type
yeah,
of crates are good ones to teach them that type too. So there's a variety of ways to do it. It's just so relative to the individual.
yeah, because I think so we do because we were really big on crate training. I know it's actually it is a big uh thorn on my side when because I'm telling you, we have had people. I'm not even joking. We have had people come that want to do a dog sport. Their dog is very good at it. They enjoy it the time, and because the dog has to be crated, they don't do it.
Yep.
It is that, and it's like it's just it's such an important skill. And I think somebody said about Carla, yeah, feeding that. I always start feeding my dogs in a crate when they're young. And my two older dogs don't spend a lot of time in crates. Because they don't, they're already pretty good at home, but they still go into a crate happily at trials. If I need to put them in a crate for whatever reason, they're happy and they're relaxed. It's never a problem. So it's really an interesting concept as to why it's not that they have to be in a crate forever, but they
Right.
have to be comfortable in it. And when they need it, like I said, Jive and Tango, they're not crated a lot anymore because they're 6. But when they need to be crated for trials and all that, they're happily crated and it's not a problem at all. My
So
young dogs are crated a little bit more, because they're young.
I'll show you my area. So there's 3 there, right? And they're older. And then I have these maniacs over here.
They're sleeping.
I know. The chewing side is on my left. But I think my dogs, like, honestly, like, they love their crates. I mean, anytime I'm like, crate up there, it's a stampede to get to the crate. It's crazy. I'm like, okay, that's too much, but whatever, at least she'll go in.
Yeah.
And they get chews, or it's feeding time. For me, it's a management situation. I have 6 dogs, and sometimes I can have an extra 1 or 2 with me. So to me, it's a management situation. So I consider it a life skill. And of course, it is relative to your lifestyle. There's some people that can get away with not crating at all. But I still think that I
Well,
still think it's a good skill to have.
right. Like I said, like I don't have my two older dogs created at home anymore because they can be left loose and they're fine. But my two younger ones, damn straight they're crated.
Mhm.
They- I'll give you an example of why there should be crated. Yesterday, I was setting up my small home gym upstairs. So it took my husband and I 2.5 hours to get it set up. Well, in 2.5 hours, we left the two young ones out of the crate. Guess what? They chewed up a pillow, and my lap puppy's been pooping it out all day today.
Mhm. Yep.
So I should have probably, in hindsight, and so I make that in hindsight. I probably should have created them, given them a Kong, and probably have avoided that whole situation.
Right.
But did I? No, I did not. I let them. I wanted to let them out for a minute. So there you go. Unfortunately, I know better, but it was a poor judgment on my part because I didn't think it was going to take that long, and there you go.
They'll be fine. I know.
And he's
They're
been
just laying down like angels.
yeah, he's been pooping out the stuffings of the pillow all day today.
Nice.
So it's been great. Yeah. Yeah. They and love that crate. It's so important. And Jen, I use peanut butter like sometimes, and I'll change it up. Sometimes I'll do like this I have now. I did some Avengers beef and um pumpkin, and I mixed that together and stuffed it this time. Sometimes I use cream cheese, peanut butter, and pumpkin. Sometimes I just vary it so it's always something different for them, and they can enjoy that. So, and I also the also Kongs and bones and stuff are great for the holidays, like Halloween. People coming to the door, giving them something to do, keeping them busy is really really important. They're just and it doesn't matter how old they are. Like I said, my 6-year-olds, do they get comes as much? No, because they're not chewing or anything. But my two young ones they chew a lot more, so they get a little bit more of those. But for those excitement when I need them to be just calm and focus on something else, whether you give them a bone or a Kong or whatever it is, that helps kind of keep them relaxed and kind of in a good place.
Kip
Jen says,
returned. Yeah, Kip was returned to the shelter multiple times because people didn't crate him. The family who had him before me said he destroyed their whole house. Now look at him, my first SMT dog.
Summit Doug.
Good. Cool.
So yeah, but it's crate training is just I can't and for the holidays and stuff, it's just a wonderful tool to have because then everybody's happy, it's peaceful and enjoyable versus having dogs get into stuff, jumping up on things. Like I have like I said, I have a young 13-month-old dog. He likes to climb up on stuff and get up on the table. He's still counter surfing and we're still working on all those things, right? So it's like until he's better, he's 100%. He's gonna be, there'll be crates in his future at home because he just needs it. So it's one of those things. It's a handy tool. It's not meant to be forever, but it's a important skill. They need it. Whether again, and those of us who are dog sport aficionados and we do a lot of that. Crating is a big part of that lifestyle. But I think we don't have enough pet owners that like to crate. They don't. They like to. I don't know where that came from or how that started, but it's
I think I've heard like a lot of people say when we've talked about it, like, oh, I don't crate him and I think it's cruel and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, you need a way to confine the dog. If it's a crate, great. And if you can't, or if it's not a crate and you don't go anywhere or whatever, and the dog's more home and stuff like that, then you need a way to confine the dog safely, period. Because not every situation yeah, it's jail. I've heard that too. Believe it or not.
but we have crates too. They're called houses,
Right.
right?
I know, right? But they don't look at it. It's different. And it's crazy interesting, right? Because technically dogs are captive animals. We control everything in their lives. And yet, we think by letting them live in our house and have access to different things, it is not necessarily captive or something. I don't know, but like our houses are captive. I mean, we can open doors to go outside, right? The dogs can't do it unless you install a doggy door, right? And it's just it's interesting. So I don't know. I don't understand the concept. I mean, I get it. But it's hard to wrap my head around it
Yeah.
because it's a safety thing for me.
Yep, it is a safety things where they can kind of keeps them safe and all that. And again, like a good example for Halloween, if you have a dog that is maybe they that maybe typically would not run out the door, but you keep opening and closing the door, they get all amped up with all the doorbell ringing, and they might on one of those occasions be able to get out of the door and they're gone. And
Mhm.
so it's like why just not put them when they're more comfortable, right?
Well, and then I don't know if you've heard like sometimes people. So I get called in a lot, and sometimes there's jumping at the door and stuff like that. It's a big hot issue for everybody. Like when people come
Yeah.
to the house, right? And in some cases, I'm like, some people are like, well, can I train them to whatever? I'm like, yes, or you can manage it and put them away until you can actually fully train the behavior, because the time to test your training isn't when the mailman's coming to the door to deliver a box. You know what I mean? It's you got to work up to it. And I think a lot of times it becomes hurry up and make it happen. And so, I mean, there's ways you can teach them to do a place or a spot or what have you, which is
Mhm.
great. But you have to be super consistent with it. It's called training, and you have to watch your criteria and adjust accordingly and then add distractions as needed. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I think you have to pick your battles. Am I addressing who's at the door, or am I working with my dog? And you can't do both efficiently. We think we can multitask, but we're not good at it. I'm not good at it.
Right, right. And Lisa, the other way to manage some of the um carry another option instead of crating is teach your dog stationing behavior,
Hmm.
which is going to take a long time, especially in a new environment or in a
Right.
different. Meaning, you can take a mat or whatever, and they would stay on that mat or um, thing or um, something
I've
have.
had people do like an ottoman or,
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that, just kind of a platformy type of thing. Or if you're really good about your boundaries and barriers and defining your criteria, yeah, you can use a rug or a mat, but make sure that it's a specific before you try to transfer it over to other areas,
yeah,
right?
right.
Sometimes people bum rush everything.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, because it's like you definitely want the dog to be able to, can your dog stay on the stationing on the platform when the doorbell rings? I
right.
can tell you right now that the only one that can probably do it is my shepherd. That's
Yeah.
whole place.
Makes,
Yep.
yep.
But yeah, you can use an ottoman or something like that. So that's in lieu, Carrie, of a crate. The other thing, too, I just thought of is tethering.
Yep.
You can tether the dog to a piece of furniture that doesn't move.
Yeah.
uh, that doesn't move. That's one. Tango, come here. Um, that doesn't move it would be helpful, and then you can tether the dog to so that if they can't be created. So it's just it's those are some options if you can't get them crate trained in time, right? It's an
Mhm.
important something to think about, right? It's another option because that's what I've some of our clients they use tethering, and they seem to be more comfortable with that than crating, which and as long as the dog, it's basically what the dog will tolerate, right?
Right.
Like if because if you're trying to do crating for the holidays, if your dog's that worried about it, my guess is it's going to be you're probably not going to be done by then.
Yep.
So you might want to work on tethering and having her be comfortable and all that stuff. Just doing that, and that might be something that would be helpful for her too. But again, you would have to definitely put him in a situation where there's no um that that she's comfortable being tethered to
Mhm.
a big furniture that can't move. I cannot stress that enough because somebody's like, "Oh, I did it to the table." Well, yeah, most dogs can move that table.
Right.
So yeah, it would have to be something very large or very heavy that the dog can't. That if the dog decides to go, they can't. So something to think about, but some options for you in case because you might find that those other options might be a good little bridge to before you get her in the crate, right? Before you get a crate train.
Yep. Good ideas.
Yeah, well, because it's like sometimes you have to look at the problem, and sometimes the solution's a little easier. And I'll give you an example. The beagle that I rescued um, couldn't ride in a crate in the car.
So I think she was saying that her beagle, she couldn't ride the crate in the car because she would get sick, and then you ended up having to ride in the front seat or something,
Well, yeah.
right?
So what happened is she would be in a crate, and it was like clockwork. She would throw up, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "So you're trying to think like, okay." So I am very worried about the dogs when they're riding in the car to be in the front seat because I worried about them hitting the windshield, all those kind of things. So, but I had to finally go. Okay, so I got a little bolster chair, a seat that's secured onto the seat, and then she's also secured with a little clip, and ended up that seemed to work really well. Like that worked well, and she was much more comfortable riding in the front seat in that little basket thing than she was in a crate. So, will I eventually try to get her back in a crate now that she's more comfortable in the car? Yeah, but right now she's not thrown up. She's been pretty good. It's been pretty easy for her, and so I think, that I had to kind of go against what I would normally wanna do, right? Like, I I definitely would, that's not what I want, but that's what you know,
The
that's
step
what
you
I
had
did
to take.
to make it right. So I had to balance it out. And again, my biggest concern was safety. So when I was able to keep her safe and secure in that place that I wasn't crazy about, then it was easier for me to do that. So some things to think about, another way of doing things that's less stressful for the dog, and that remedies the situation, even if it's temporarily. It'll take care of some of that. So
So, what's your worst holiday, dog people holiday that you've had?
Christmas.
And what was the incident where you're like, oh, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, kids going in the room, letting the dogs out, and so
That's awesome.
yeah, so that was like, okay. So
Lock on the door, right? I know.
yes, exactly. Lots of little, and this was when I had my little dogs, my small min pins and all that.
Oh,
So it was lots of little dogs running around,
with lots of children.
lots of
Nice.
children, lots of dogs. Yeah, that was my most exciting one.
Oh,
With
4th of July. Yeah.
yeah, no,
I
for me,
will say, I remember, I think it was a Thanksgiving or something. I had everybody over, and I lived in the brick bungalow in Chicago with like a gazillion dogs, like not literally, but I had a lot at the time. I think I had like 10, 11, something like that. And I had all the crates because everybody crated because of how my house was. And I had a biter and I had a fighter. And so I remember I put everybody in the room. Simon was out, who was my dog who would bite people. My brother,
yes.
my oldest brother, and his really amazing thought process, decided to go run into the room and open the door, which had a gate in the door. Obviously the gate was in front of it. My dog was laying on bed, and I'm like, on the bed, the biter, and I'm like, he could have launched and bit you. And he opened the door, hey, and then closed the door and took off. I'm like, what a jerk. I go, do not go by that door again. And this is the last time you're invited to my home. Sorry. Next time I'll come to you, maybe. So, but I remember that I was so mad. I was like, you need to leave because I'm not happy.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. It's like that's why we our families, no, even though we do this for a living, it doesn't matter. We still have the same issues that most of you all have with family members and some of the things. So it's like we feel you. So because family can be, that's where you can have events, events that you really and you want your holidays to be memorable, but not for those reasons.
Right.
You
Yeah,
want it to
it
be
is.
memorable, but not because, oh, did you hear so and so's dog got out and we had to do this and that. So you want to be really thoughtful about what you do for the holidays and how you prepare and what you do to keep your dog safe and keep your family safe and keep everybody from, hurting themselves. So
Right.
uh the two-legged and the four-legged, right? And make it as comfortable for because I think we get so caught up in making the holidays, make our pets part of our family, but sometimes the option is to keep them safe and keep them um from our well-meaning, lovely, wonderful family members.
Right.
Because they mean well. I know my family does, but no, that's not an option. All right, guys. So I hope this was helpful. Just kind of reminders. Most of you probably have better ideas than we do on some of this stuff. So hey, I am going to go back to try to send emails about what's coming up, uh, the topics, and also when we're not going to have Facebook Lives because it looks like for the holidays there's going to be a couple of weeks that we don't. So we might maybe do a special edition on another time or something like that. But so what we're going to do is I'm going to put a link to a little so we can get your email and we can send it to the list. Just what's happening. It's strictly going to be for Facebook stuff. What we're doing, events or anything special. And also we're going to try to have show notes again on, printed up and stuff like that. So you guys can have access to those. So, again, this is not going to be used for anything but information on Facebook Lives and whether we're on or we're off or we're taking a break or if we have special guests coming up and things like that. That's kind of what we're going to use it for. So it won't be like it's going to be, gone to anybody else or whatever. All right. So if you sign up and let us, and get on our list, and then you'll kind of get the heads up before before everybody else. Anyway, thank you all. Have a happy Halloween, and take care and see you next week.
Be safe.
Bye bye.